Hello and welcome to another one of my thoughts videos. In this one I'm going to be looking at another concept. A couple of days ago I had a dream where one of my sons wanted to do some renovations on my house, and he had ordered a whole bunch of things online and they started appearing at my door. Now, most people, the neighbours, were thinking, oh, how lucky of you, and criticising me when I got particularly annoyed. And I wondered, after waking up and thinking about it, why did I get so particularly annoyed that my son wanted to, bless me with some renovations? And the reason behind that provoked the next topic of conversation here, which is that of ownership. Now, recently we looked at the concept of money does not exist. That's a very important concept. The money we use doesn't exist. It is a mere representation, and a pretty feeble one at that, of perceived value of something. And that perception is very volatile. It can go up, it can go down, it can disappear, it can do all sorts of things. And the fact that the math that governs the money is so rigid fools us into thinking that money exists when it doesn't. It's just a representation of perceived value. Now, the globalists and the multinationals, they know this. They know the concept of money does not exist, but they use that concept to get the numbers to then take possession of that which does exist. Now, in being financially free and working outside of an economy or outside of the monetary systems, or at least trying to as much as you can, you need to understand this next concept of ownership. Ownership may require some money to obtain, or ownership may be done without any money. And this is the whole goal. Now, why did I get so really annoyed that my son wanted to bless me by renovating my house? It's because of the fact that it is my house. You see, ownership gives you sovereignty over something. It gives you the ultimate say in what happens with that thing. Now, in the case of my house, it doesn't matter who or what or who wants to do stuff. It is ultimately me that decides what happens. Now, if my son had come to me and said, hey, Dad, I want to renovate your house for you, I would have said, cool, let's do it. And then it would have been fine, because you would have had my approval. My sovereignty would have allowed it. But if I had said, hang on a minute, it's my house, and they say, yeah, but it's falling to pieces and stuff, so I don't care. I'm the sovereign here, and I get to decide whether my house falls apart or gets fixed. Now, with sovereignty and ownership comes responsibility, and that is the two-sided things. With freedom comes responsibility, and with ownership also comes responsibility. So the globalists and the multinationals are trying to own and be sovereign over absolutely everything they can, including you, your will, and everything about you. As it is, the corporations where the countries have been turned into corporations, those corporations believe that they do own you, because you are just a chattel as part of the country, therefore part of the corporation. They own you. Now, that we disagree with, because we own ourselves, or God owns us, really, if you believe in God. I do. And so we own ourselves. Corporations don't own us, and the globalists don't own us. We have sovereignty over ourselves. Our sovereignty is very limited in what we are sovereign over, but we're sovereign over our hair, we're sovereign over our fingernails, we're sovereign over our speech, we're sovereign over whether we pee and poop, and we are sovereign over our body. The worldwide medical scam with jabs and things recently tried to take that sovereignty away from us, and they are still trying to take that sovereignty over our body away from us, because that is the nature of these corporations, is trying to own absolutely everything and become sovereign over absolutely everything. Now, in Colombia here at the moment, we have a law that was passed 3 presidents ago under an oligarch capitalist type of government of expropriation, which means like Venezuela, who expropriated, I'm thinking maybe that's a Spanish word, expropriate, to take off, confiscate, there you go, in English. This, we have just got our first socialist president in the history of 500 years of history of Colombia in power now, and everybody is extremely scared that he's going to turn Colombia into a Venezuela and ruin the country. One of the things he has talked about in his campaigning was that he would enact this law that was passed 3 presidents ago of confiscation. If there is some land that is not being well used, they will confiscate it from its owner and give it to someone who will put it to good use, all in the name of productivity and prosperity for the government. That is a direct violation of sovereignty and ownership. If someone owns a big chunk of land, the concept of ownership means that the person that owns it, or the company or whoever owns it, has total sovereignty over it, and that they can let it sit and do nothing and turn back into jungle or back into pasture or whatever, or they can use it. It is their choice. They own it. It is not for some government to tell them what to do with their land. This is like my son ordering all these things for renovating my house without my consent. This is a direct violation of the concept of ownership. Now, there are ways to gain ownership of things. Now, you can play all the little games that the financiers play, accumulate numbers and use those numbers to make a deal and become the owner of something. Or you can do other little things and just become the owner of something without dealing with the numbers, probably on a more small scale, but there are ways of doing it. And the second part of the concept then comes into play, which you really do have to think about. It's nice to own things, and you own your own body, and you are sovereign over your own body, but you have responsibility. As I was saying before, it always comes with responsibility, and so you really need to think hard about how much stuff and how many things you really do want to own, because with everything that you own, you generate responsibility. And with our bodies, we then become responsible automatically to feed it, to wash it, to clean it, to do all the things that we need to do to maintain our body. We have, you don't think about it much, but you have a responsibility to maintain your body as the sovereign over your body. If you have a house and you own this house, then you have a responsibility to contribute to society and paying your house taxes and maintaining it and painting it and paying your bills and everything that goes with owning a house. If you own 2 houses, you then multiply the responsibility and everything, and you'll find, for those of you out there who own businesses and own a lot of stuff, you will find that having more stuff generates more problems, because you then have to employ managers, then you have to employ other people, the expenses go up. And for example, I remember having the privilege of going in a speedboat in New Zealand one summer. The owners of it had paid $20,000, back then was like just about worth a house at that stage, And they had to wash it, they had to clean it, they had to wax it, they had to store it, they had to register the trailer that they did, and huge things, and then to use it for 2 or 3 weeks in the year. And I thought, what a waste. I'd rather not have a speedboat. Or I just like to, be friends with someone who has a speedboat, and then during that 2 or 3 weeks in the year, have a spin with them and go my merry way, having enjoyed it as much as they had, without all the responsibility of looking after it. So the whole deal is that with more ownership comes more responsibility. And so when you think about becoming rich and prosperous, then you really need to think, what is the level of responsibility that you want to maintain when you have all of your ownership, when you own all this stuff? That should help you to decide where you invest your energy in an economy that is not the monetary economy, but in a real economy with real possessions and real wealth. We'll talk about that, some of those details later on.